Sjgam has been a surprising brand because they've had some terrible handhelds, really bad ones, but they've had some great ones like the M17 that the community picked up and really supported. Most recently, they had the PS Portal clone, the M28, that I found to be pretty good, and that video has gotten a lot of views. But now we're up to M41 we have right here today. We're going to take a look at this little unassuming, but can Sjgam repeat greatness, or are they going to continue to fumble? Remember to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. But let's hop in and take a look at the newest M42 in this pretty nice looking orange color and find out, what is this? What's it about? Is it any good? And what is the 909 chip? Stay tuned. All right, so we'll start with the box, and this is a pretty large box because it comes with a controller. I didn't know that when I first got this, but it's a typical SJ box. We do have a little man that they always have on here that we're used to seeing. Video game controller gamepad. So that's interesting, controller gamepad. We have the unit on front in orange. We do show the gamepad, which is your typical PS2 fake controller. Not as good as a PS2 controller and probably pretty cheap. Oh, but we do have a glossy shell. That's always a positive. Get the glossy shell. I mean, come on, who doesn't want a glossy shell? This is the M41p. I think I forgot that earlier. The P, 16 million colors, RGB racing rainbow light ring. On the side here, we have video game controller gamepad again. They really want you to know there's a gamepad. It does come in two colors. It comes in the black and the orange. We want the orange because, you know, I like orange is the new black, right? 64 gig version. There's a little Sjgam guy. And on the back, again, we show the unit along with the controller. And then we have the specs here. As I show these specs on the screen, no surprise, we have Linux, EmuLX, supports 30 emulators, but we do have a unique CPU here, an N909. I may have seen that once long ago, I'm trying to remember, but it says it's dual core, it's not even quad core, so I'm not expecting a lot here. And it only goes up to 1.2 gigahertz to 1.8 gigahertz, so not expecting a lot of power here. But typical Sjgam, we do have a decent battery here. Actually 2000 milliamps, kind of small now that I think of it. And it takes an SD card. I don't have a lot of high hopes for this. The M28, the one that looked like the PS Portal, that actually surprised me a little bit. They've had some others. The M18, the Cyclops was okay, but really not expecting much here. Tearing into the box, and we do have the handheld, but we'll get that out of the way. And we have the controller. Yes, this is a typical cheap controller that we don't really have a whole lot of hope for. It's very light. It doesn't feel good. It does have the authentic rubber sticks that we used to, but they're not clicky. They're not even clicky, so it can't even do that like a real controller for the PS2 could do. Select start mode, and then you have XYBA instead of your Sony labels. This does come with a little adapter. We have a USB A and C here, and then we have an HDMI, or actually, yeah, HDMI cord here. Nothing else in here. There is a manual underneath this. The manual is not super helpful, as is usually the case with Sjgam, but we do have a manual here to kind of tell you things here. And oh boy, we have some remarks. The machine is for reference. The case of the machine is based on the physical object. Whatever, you know, typical stuff here. But once we get past the box and get into the meat of the things, we do have the handheld. And as you can see here, the handheld is quite small, quite petite. It is kind of rattly a little bit. It feels very kind of cheap, you know, from what you expect here, but nothing that really surprises me considering Sjgam and what we've seen in the past. Let's start with the buttons here, and these look kind of nice. They're actually nice looking buttons, and wow, they're independent buttons. So not bad there. They do have independent pressure to them. They feel like conductive rubber. They're not very loud, so I'll give them that. We then have a start and a select, and that's fairly loud a little bit. Moving on to the D-pad, and this is kind of a small D-pad. Now, this is, I don't know if this is really meant to be very pocketable. It does have clicky. Oh my, listen to how clicky those are. Shoulder buttons, all digital, no analog. They feel okay. Boy, if you don't like clicky noise, you will definitely not like this, because it's clicking. It is clicking, guys, and it is really like, oh my. The D-pad is kind of tiny. Look at that. It's a very small D-pad. It doesn't have a lot of pivot to it, so I'm not really super impressed with this D-pad. Kind of small, doesn't pivot well. No surprise. And then a Vita stick that doesn't press in. This really isn't surprising because the controller didn't. So, and with this CPU that's dual core, I gotta remind you it's dual core. I'm not expecting to really need to make use of R3 or L3, I guess, since there's only one stick. We do have a decent looking screen. I like the candy bar form factor. It feels nice. On the top we have volume, plus and minus. We do have the HDMI out, so it can do HDMI out. I guess that's pretty nice since we do have that controller. We do have a USB-C port for charging, and then a physical on-off switch. On the bottom here we have our SD card, and we have a headphone jack. Not much on the back here, but it's not too bad plastic, actually. It's got a nice look to it. The feel of it's somewhat cheap, not super cheap. I guess I could handle it. Again, very lightweight, pretty pocketable. I'd say the buttons are actually the best part of it. They're pretty nice. They feel nice. They're slick. They're independent. D-pad is a little too small and doesn't pivot. No L3 on the L button. We do have some RGB, it looks like. And we do have a headphone jack, so that's good, and an HDMI out. But as we always know, the real problem with these handhelds, the real thing is the software, especially since this is running some kind of weird CPU. And I'm going to open this thing up and look at it later to verify what is the CPU. But overall, first impressions, it's kind of what I thought it would be. It looks okay in appearance. It feels kind of okay, but it's just not great, and it's still typical of the Sjgam. Why not stay with the M17? I don't see anything here that really improves it smaller than the M17, but it probably has a worse CPU even. I don't know. We're going to have to just like look and see here. But after we come back, we'll turn this thing on and take a look at the software and see what it looks like and what we can expect. We'll be right back. This is a retro camera from Kodak, and we just got this in. And guys, it's more than that. It's also a blind box because you get one of 6, including maybe a 7th secret camera. This keychain digital camera is an ode to retro 2000s, and I'm going to open mine up here and show you just which one we get. Let's check it out. All right, so as you can see here, it comes in this beautiful shiny box. This is the Kodak Charmera keychain digital camera. Picture the Millennium. They do show the Millennium Edition on the front. However, there are 6 different ones that could be in this box, including the secret one, which I hope I get the secret one. That would be pretty cool. This is a mini camera and blind box all in one. It's a keychain camera. It does have filters built in and also some photo frames. It uses an SD card. But let's get this guy open and find out which one I actually got. I'm pretty excited for this, no matter which one I got, because these are all pretty cool. But You can hit the link below to pick one of these up for yourself. I have the link down there. This is really cool. You can give to a young person. And we have a card here, and it looks like I got the pink one. Oh, and you guys know how much I like pink, so that's very appropriate. You even get a little card with it here. That's pretty cool. There's a quick start button. Kodak is still around. This thing is so tiny. Look at this. Look how small that is. But anyways, guys, hit the link below if you want to hit this one, get one of these. We usually have some discounts. But back to the show. All right, so let's get this thing booted up. Again, we have a physical switch here, which is kind of nice. Some people really dig the physical switch. I don't have much of a problem with it. We do get a loading screen here, so that's kind of nice. Now, I will say that I had some issues with this the first few times. I couldn't get it to boot into anything. The loading screen would come on, and then it would just stay in a constant state of a black screen. I had to remove the SD card out and in to get it to work, so I don't know if my SD card is corrupt or something's wrong with it, but I didn't think I was going to get it to work at all. But as you can see here now, the first time booting up, it's just stuck. We saw it say the loading screen, so we know it works. But if you do end up with one of these and you have this problem, it's probably going to be something to do with the SD card. Also, this should be spinning. You can see here at the light, it should be spinning. So we'll turn it off one more time. I'm going to see if I can get it to just come on, but I may have to take the card out and put it back in to get it to roll. But I'll know if it's going to work if the light doesn't start spinning. So here we go. So we got a loading screen. So we know that it is actually trying to do something. The screen does work. And I have used this, so I know it does work. But not a very good thing, Sjgam, when you have a problem. So looky there. It came on this time. We do have the screen here. This is your typical, really kind of basic, very super basic system. We go into settings, and we really don't have a whole lot here. We do have information about the version of it, which doesn't do any good. It says the M41 here, not the M41p. So again, don't really know what that's about. It's not really saying P. We do have restore the factory settings, which I don't know why you do that. It's nothing much we've done to restore it. You can see the light is spinning. I can turn the light off if I want to, so that's kind of nice they have that. But the real question is, can I even get into RetroArch? Can I do anything with it? Well, let's take a look at that. If we go into the game here and go to All Games and let it load into All Games. So you can see, even though I'm in the system, it's still not loading all of the games. This has really been a very poor experience. Now, I will give it the benefit of the doubt and say that this possibly could be this unit or this card. Maybe they're not all like this, but unfortunately for me, yeah, it's not loading the games. So we're going to turn it off one more time. I'm going to actually remove the card this time because I found that that kind of helps. And we can take a look at the card and see that it's just a very, very generic card here. It is 64 gigs, or at least it says it is. Who knows if that's accurate? We'll put the card back in here. This is sort of a deep recessed slot too, so I don't know about that, but I think I got it in there. Let's turn it on again. Let's see if we can actually get some games to load. Because I'm not going to sit here and really fool around with this thing very in depth, because short story, this is not a very impressive handheld from Sjgam. They have better models for it. Are we lucky here? We're going to get any games that are loading. Still not loading. Yeah, still not loading. I have had games load on this. I do know the card has games. I put it in the computer and ran it through. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to try the magic ball and shake it. Will it work? Will it work, Sjgam, or is this yet another piece of vaporware? So again, if you're really looking for an Sjgam, the M28 is one of the better ones they've done. I really like that quite a bit. It can kind of play PS2, kind of not, but kind of interesting here as we look at this and see if this will actually decide to play ball. As we turn it on. Long story short, in playing this, it is stretched. You have some access to RetroArch, but not a full access. Or actually, you have very limited access to things like saving states. Now you see, even though it's spinning, it's not even wanting to load the software. So this is, again, sort of a crapshoot, sort of a very poor product that is made. It's not really up to par with what I'm used to or hoping for. I like the sort of simple, small form factor. I do like that it's stacked shoulders. I think a lot of you guys would like that. The physical hardware button is nice. But again, there's just too many software problems. And if we try to turn it on with no SD card, let's see what happens. I don't know that I tried that. See, it's still loading anyway, so it's looking for the card to load the software or load the games. The OS is probably on an eMMC in here. Yep, and it tells you please check the SD card. You can see that the battery is almost dead on this thing anyways, probably from the number of times I've had to turn it on and off. If we put the SD card in here, I wonder, can we refresh this? No telling, guys. This is very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. I like to actually test these things for you guys, but sometimes that's how the ball rolls. That's how this happens. You just don't get lucky. It's always wanting to load, but it doesn't necessarily want to actually load anything beyond the picture of the software. It doesn't want to give me any games, or it just wants to go into this black screen as it's doing now, even though that's circling around, which indicates to me that something's occurring. So I think for the next section, we'll just go ahead and open this thing up and take a look at what's inside to see what the CPU is, what it says. I don't know why they went to this CPU. The Rockchip 3326, while boring, is reliable and might have appealed to some people with a single stick in this form factor. But good old Sjgam just can't seem to put together a product that really truly has all the pieces there. I really wish they would figure things out, because this is very frustrating. It is just not supposed to be like this. I don't really want to try to track down the software and try to burn a new card. It should work. Oh my gosh, look at that. This is what happens when you film something live like this. This is how I do my videos. But now that it actually decided to play ball and show up, I can show you. I'm not going to edit it out. I'm going to show all this like this. And you can see that the software here is very basic. I'll go into Game Boy Advance. We'll play something here, everybody. I think a good one to play here is probably, and at least the games are properly labeled. I'll give them that. We'll go down to some Castlevania if they have it. They don't even have Castlevania, so it's missing a lot of the popular games. Of course, in theory, you should be able to add your own game here. Who knows if that really works? But you can see it's full screen. We can only get into this. We can continue save. We can't edit anything. We can't change the way it looks. It's pretty much locked down. And who knows what this CPU is. But if you're going to play everything stretched out like this, most of the systems are just going to look terrible. Game Boy Advance, being a 3.2 system, doesn't look completely awful. But, and then again, you press those two to get out of there. You could save it, exit the game, go back and hope the software actually lands on here. It shows the highest system. What is the highest system they have on here? I think PS1 is going to be PSX, yeah, which I bet even some of this PS1 games may not even play well. Let's see what they got. Just Tekken. Let's see what Tekken looks like again. And the sound's not too bad. You do have a front firing speaker right there, so I'll say the sound isn't awful, but the sound actually might be the best part of this whole handheld. So play a little there. We'll go ahead and get into the game. The original Tekken is still an awesome little game to play. I saw somebody had ported the arcade to the PC. And a game like this, it should handle no problem. Let's see if there's any stuttering. No, it looks okay. The resolution on this is pretty nice. I think it may be 720p, 1280 by 720p. Even though it's stretched and not a 4:3 configuration. Doesn't look bad. Could be worse. Again, we can't really control anything. But I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to open this up and find out what it looks like on the inside. And then I'll be back to wrap up my thoughts on this Sjgam. All right, so let's get this guy open. And of course, you void your warranty because they have their little sticker over the screw there. But just 4 little screws to get into here. And we'll find out. I kind of have a suspicion that possibly they have either covered up or hidden the CPU, even though I admit or say a 909, whatever that is, I don't know. We're about to find out. Looking at this thing because I'm a little suspicious aloysius. These are pretty tiny screws in there, but they came out pretty easily using a standard size. Most of these, a lot of these places use for it. I'm not real hopeful that this is really going to result in answering any of those lingering questions, but I know that they seem to have maybe possibly different designers. So we got pretty easily into the screws. See if we can get this case apart. Yeah, it's coming apart pretty easily. So I love handhelds that are pretty simple to, oh, let's take this SD card out because always wise to do that. But when the cases are pretty straightforward to repair and to open, I always think that that is very wise for these manufacturers to make them easily repairable, especially with batteries and battery technology. And you can kind of tell the quality of the plastic used as well. Let's see if I'm missing. Now I got all the screws out, kind of being stubborn about coming out here. We'll just give it a little help here. All we need is a little bit of help. Just doesn't want to separate too much. That's what I'm always concerned about, that there's some hidden screws that will be not real apparent. And this is not separating in a very smooth way. Normally I can pop this off pretty straightforward. Make sure I'm not missing anything here, but don't really see anything. They might have glued it. There could be a hidden screw because they don't really want you to see the CPU. They don't want their secrets out. But boy, I don't give up that easily. There we go. Just need a little bit of encouragement here to get into this sucker. Just got some really good pegs on it is all holding it together. Mainly it was that. There we go, it's off. And that feels kind of nice actually. Not a bad plate here. As we have all of this fall apart, the little speaker there come out. And not to be surprised, it's not real apparent right off the bat what the CPU is, although it's right there. And it does say an N909, that's what it says. N chip 909. So that's what they're showing. That's what's in here. I guess I can do some research and figure out if anybody knows what that is. Leave me a comment. But I'm going to wrap this up. This is pretty much a pass. I don't find this to be a good handheld. It's got too many issues. The CPU is not great. The D-pad's too small. It didn't start very well. The software, I don't know if that's the card only. Maybe they're not all like that. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, remember to hug your loved ones and love your hugged ones because tomorrow's never promised. See you next time, Deadheads. Dead Fred out.